What fictional monster is the most terrifying? Please like and subscribe to support this channel. AM from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It's such a troubling story, and AM is utterly malevolent, creative, and full of such malice. It is also capable of altering us, bending the rules by which humans work, for its own cruel amusement. AM is the ultimate manifestation of the kid pulling wings off of a fly. To clear up some confusion, there's a collection of short stories by the same name, but AM only appears in the short story titled, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. It's short, so if you want to read it, you can hear. The first monster that really disturbed me was The Third Army, from Jeff Johns' rendition of the Green Lantern. The concept of being forcefully assimilated, much like The Thing, really just disturbs me. Combined with the fact that the Third Army can fly and have super strength, they make a truly fearful enemy. And the added fact that they can assimilate all organic matter just makes it scarier. Let us imagine a xenomorph. Now let us imagine they can go to the size of a small aircraft hangar. Now imagine their entire limbs can be turned into acid weapons, cutting claws, living flails, and even weapons that spit little creatures that claw through you midair. Now that's imagine they come in all shapes and sizes in massive hordes, all under the control of an even more terrifying beast and directly connected to a monstrous sentience that could eat the entire galaxy. I present to you the Tyranids. There is no defense, no way of stopping them fully. Only sacrifice and the elimination of a few tendrils of one unstoppable storm. If it can make a Astartes feel fear, it can make us. The Nothing from the never-ending story. It's a representation of the emptiness of losing our imagination, motivation, and essentially our ability to love. It's destroying the fictional world in the book because Bastian's depression from losing his mother, his father not helping him cope, and loses all desire to keep going to school. It's the emptiness that's left. It's like a despair, destroying this world, and I have been trying to help it. Tilda Gamork about The Nothing. You know how some films aren't as magical as they are when you're young. You can't get into TV shows, music doesn't affect you as much. Your favorite band's new album just doesn't sound the same. All of your heroes are actually just real people with real issues. You start to lose your grandparents, then your parents. You see humanity for what it really is and you start to wonder how you ever cared before. That's him. That's the Nothing. And he's coming. He's getting bigger every day. He's coming to get you. And he won't take you by force. In the end, you won't care enough to stop him. You'll resign yourself to being taken. Just like the Rockbiter. Just like Artax in the swamp. You just give in to it. Why is the most terrifying? Because it's real. It's already started happening to you. You know it has. You may be able to fight it back here and there throughout your life. But one day it will get you. And you will be glad it does. Greater than my car broke down one night. An incredibly unfortunate event, as I live around 2 miles away from work. I cursed at my car, my life, and the world in general as I turned the key in vain, my car's sputtering echoing my own indignation. Greater than it was just my luck that tonight, of all nights, had to be dreary as a cemetery. Fog had descended on my city, like the uncomfortable squelching of wet socks. Sighing, deciding not to prolong the inevitable, I finally gave up on my useless attempts to start the car. I got out, locked the car, then kicked one of the tires for good measure. Ouch. Greater than already, the gloom of the night was beginning to get to me. Mist glowed dully around each orange streetlight. I began to make my way down the road, squinting my eyes in an attempt to spot any puddles. The thing that drifted ashore. TLDR, spoiler. There is this giant monster that swallows people whole out at sea. Once inside, you are kept alive by being fed a steady supply of nutrients, submerged in goop and surrounded by hundreds of other people, like some kind of mass womb. The walls of the monster's stomach are transparent, and it has bioluminescent tentacle things all around it, so when you are inside you can see out into the ocean depths. In the story, the people inside were cut out and freed and they were zombie-like, driven insane by the experience. There were hundreds of bodies and they were all alive. The slake moths from Perdido Street Station. Huge, covered in spikes and bony blades, but most terrifying is their hypnotic wings that once seen, even for a second leave you standing there paralyzed. Once they start to feed by drinking your mind right out of your body, leaving you a breathing corpse. Even if they are interrupted while sucking your very thoughts out, you are never the same. You are childlike, but still aware of what you have lost. Either that or the Weaver from the same book, a giant spider with human-like hands and an intelligence so alien it will skin you alive whilst reciting poetry just because your blood makes a nice pattern spread on the walls. I remember reading Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and one of the things looked like a cloak and would kill you in your sleep without leaving a trace, and the only way to stop it is if you cast a Patronus with split-second timing, scaring it off. Since I can't use magic, my only hope against it would be that it has an ever-soon-to-night lights. I think it was called a levifold or something like that. All of the Endbringers from Asterisk Worm are scary, but the Simurgh is by far the most terrifying. She is both a precog and a telepath, and anyone who is exposed to her, scream, for too long could be under her influence. If you survive her attack on your city, your life is still ruined. Imagine living your life second-guessing every decision you make, wondering if you made the choice you did because of her influence and are furthering some convoluted plot to cause maximum devastation later, with the fear that somewhere down the line you may snap and go on a killing spree. Oh, and since the authorities will be scared of those same things, you'll be living the rest of your life in a quarantine zone with the rest of the survivors. I hope others have read the book too, but am one from Relic by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. I'm aware there's a movie based on it, but from what I've been told by those who saw it, it's not at all worth it. I was already burned by Percy Jackson, but in all honesty, while the monster isn't always fully described, it's the constant what-ifs that make the book heart-pounding. It's hunting, and it's really good at it. MacLeod. The male torso has no legs, but its arms can reach the ground from its position on top of the equine body, the legs of which have fin-like appendages. The torso has a large head, possibly as much as 3 feet, 90 centimeters, in diameter, that rolls back and forth. The monster described by Tamaz has 2 heads. The equine head has an enormous gaping mouth that exudes a smelly toxic vapor, and a single giant eye like a burning red flame. A particularly gruesome detail is that the MacLeod has no skin. Black blood courses through yellow veins, and the pale sinews and powerful muscles are visible as a pulsating mass. Other reports state that the creature resembles a centaur. Narratives are inconsistent in the finer details of the demon's description, however. Trail Dennison only describes a man's head with a mouth projected like that of a pig. Marwick also only mentions one head with a single red eye, and he borrows some of Tamaz's characterization by recording the creature's mouth as like a whale's. Y'all ever heard of a seeker? Not any of this bitch-ass Harry Potter shit. I'm talking 5 to 6 foot tall walking bug with wings. That's not the scary part. This bug can bite you and turn you into a mindless drone completely bent to its will. Not oh boy Timmy is under mind control until we kill this thing. You are gone, permanently. Your mind is shattered by this evil-ass bug. No coming back from it. Just a wooden-faced drone. That's not the scary part. Seekers feed on their drones after they no longer need them. People, horses, quite possible trolls and ogres too if they somehow found their way to Thaliasia. They will liquidate you and slurp your mindless ass. That's not the scary part. Everything I've just told you is when a seeker is still in its larva phase. Once it matures, it sheds its carapace and goes looking for a mate. They have no mouth with which to feed, so they find a mate and breed like coked-out rabbits. Thank ever elder and younger gods of Styricum, they are locked far underground, only one let out at a time, or they would eat the world. That's still not the scary part. Seekers aren't super smart. They don't have to be. Any seeker you encounter is just a vessel for an elder god of Styricum, Azash. Not elder as in, oh he is old as shit. I'm talking Dark Ages worship. Blood sacrifices, what would be classified by most as some damn serious black magic, the whole show. God-level intellect controlling a beast with the ability to make a mindless drone army. I'll take a Dementor any day. Azathoth, a being so immeasurable that he is at the center of the universe. He is God in the Cthulhu mythos. He birthed the universe as a fart in his sleep along with all the elder gods. If he ever awakes, he can easily delete the universe along with anything in it. Imagine humans, in their feeble spacefaring contraptions, coming upon the court of Azathoth. Their minds would not comprehend the sight. Imagine the vacuum of space filled with beings who can end all of humanity in a blink of an eye, surrounding a mass of tentacles and flesh, as they frantically play away at their instruments hoping that Azathoth stays asleep. The Jabberwocky twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the Borogoves, and the Momraths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son. The jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time the manxome foe he sought, so rested he by the tumtum tree and stood a while and thought. And, as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock, with eyes of flame, came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through the vorpal blade went snicker snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, Calloo, Calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrabe. Does the flood from Halo count? For those unfamiliar, the flood is a parasite that, in seconds, can take over practically any life form in seconds by attacking its nervous system. The spores that do this look like demonic octopi, and those typically live in a giant walking bag that explodes in your face, releasing several octopi. Controlled beings can still operate machines, guns, etc. And their knowledge is fed into a hive mind called grave mind, which eventually becomes a key mind which can take over AI. It takes over biological and artificial life. The only way to stop a decent-sized outbreak is to essentially nuke the universe. The Slake Moths from Perdido Street Station by China Mieville. One of the most utterly terrifying creatures I have ever encountered in any form of fiction. Greater than the slake moth held him in thrall. Greater than it was taller than a bear. A clutch of sharp extrusions like dark cartilaginous whips blossomed from its sides and flickered out towards him. Other, smaller, sharper limbs flexed like claws. Greater than the creature stood on legs like monkey's arms. 3 pairs jutted from its trunk. It stood now bipedally, now on 4 legs, now on 6. Greater than it reared up on its lower legs and a sharp tail slithered forward from between its legs for balance. Its face, greater than asterisk, always those huge irregular wings, curving in strange directions, shifting in shape to fit the room, each as random and inconstant as oil on water, each a perfect reflection of the other, kept gently moving, their patterns changing, flickering in a seductive tide. Asterisk greater than it had no eyes that they could recognize, only 2 deep sunken hollows sprouting thick, flexing antennae like stubby fingers, above rows of huge slab teeth. As Isaac watched, it cocked its head and opened that unimaginable mouth, and from it a huge, prehensile, slavering tongue unrolled. Greater than it waved quickly through the air. Its end was coated in clumps of gossamer alveoli that pulsed as the enormous thing flailed like an elephant's trunk. Greater than, it's trying to find me, wailed Barble, and broke, and ran for the door. Greater than instantly the slake moth flickered its tongue towards the movement. There was a succession of motions far too quick to see. Some cruel organic jag snapped out and passed through Mr. X's head as if through water. Mr. X shuddered suddenly, and just as the blood began to well explosively through the sliced bone, the slake moth reached out with 4 of its arms, pulled him briefly closer and hurled him across the room. Greater than he flew through the air trailing gore and bone shards like a comet. He died before he landed.